As usual, nothing is medical advice, only for educational purposes. In today's episode, we discuss hypnotherapy and other modalities to help overcome fear, anxiety, and stress. Hi, Liam. Thank you for being with us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you today?
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me
Thank you
on.
so much for being here. Okay, let's jump into this. So, how did you get into coaching and hypnotherapy?
Well, I started off as a primary school teacher, so I went into education at the end of my degree because I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I guess like a lot of people, you just kind of do something that might pay the bills. But actually, I realized that after a couple of years of doing that, I realized that I really wanted to. I was always interested in the mind, and I was always interested in spirituality and energies, all those kind of things. So yeah, I just started exploring that really, and I also enjoyed. I realized when I was teaching that I enjoyed working with people one to one. So I enjoyed working with the kids one to one if I could speak to them and coach them. So it was just quite a natural thing for me, and from there I learned about hypnosis. So I just happened to find out about there was an NLP course that I learned. I don't know if you've heard of NLP before, but NLP is a very interesting study of kind of it's partly to do with the mind, but it's also to do with metaphors and how we create can be how we create problems in our lives or how we create how the strategies that we use in our lives. So there was so I learned that, and I also when I learned hypnotherapy, I saw a course advertised and I just absolutely loved it. It was kind of something that you know like sometimes these things just seem to fall into your path, and that seemed to happen with me. It just seemed I kind of saw these courses and I just really wanted to do them. And then when I did them, I realized that the results that you can get from it are quite spectacular. So yeah, I kind of went from there with it. And also I guess maybe with you, probably similar with you really, that you find something you find and it just feels very natural to you. And it's just something that, and I think people can pick up on it when you're very interested in something as well, when it's your passion.
Yes, absolutely. It was the same for me with homeopathy. At some point, when I just came across of homeopathy, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do because, like you said, like the same with homeopathy, I see like such wonderful result with this that nothing compares to me. So it was obvious for me to just keep going into that path. That's great. So can you tell us a little bit what is hypnosis?
Yeah, so I mean, it's sometimes hard to explain it really, but in a way that I think if you think about the word hypnosis, it obviously comes from the Greek hypnos, which is to do with sleep. It's like the Greek word for sleep, I believe, anyway. Um, and actually, the way I see hypnosis is it's a state of intense focus. So it's when the mind is, or when our attention is really intensely focused, and we can suspend disbelief. So it's kind of um, it's having an intense state of focus, but it's also allowing yourself to believe that something is allowing yourself to be open to something changing. So sometimes that can happen. It doesn't always have to be like a formal trance situation. So in my case, obviously, when I'm working with people, it's kind of one to one, and we kind of induce a trance state. But sometimes, I guess you can see the way advertising is used, for example. Sometimes people are being hypnotized without realizing it as well. So I think it's about an intense state of belief, but also an intense focus. And in that state, when you are really focused, when the mind or when the logical mind, the conscious mind is out of the way, it's much more
So
easy.
is it a little bit like meditation, like the
Yeah,
state you get when you are like I'm gonna say like good at meditation, the state you get at some point? Is it kind of like a
yeah.
little bit like this?
Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of people it would feel very similar to that in a therapeutic sense, anyway. So if you're in a in a formal therapy situation and using hypnosis, it does feel a lot like a deep state of meditation. I think that the big difference between the two is that I think hypnosis is more it's more about achieving a goal or creating having an end result that you want to achieve, whereas a lot of the time meditation is about presence and about focusing in the present,
Absolutely.
and that's the end result, isn't it? Whereas hypnosis is, it's a lot of it is, there generally is something that you want to change or shift or improve with it. So yeah, that's probably the big difference, I would say.
Okay. And so you use hypnosis alongside with tapping. So can you tell us a little bit about what is tapping?
Yeah, sure. So tapping, in my case, I use a form of tapping. So it's essentially a meridian tapping technique. So many people, many of your listeners and people that follow you may have heard of EFT before, emotional freedom.
Absolutely. So I'm very familiar with EFT, but the way you are practicing, not at all.
Okay, okay, yeah. So the difference is, so EFT is much more well known. It's much more, it's much more sort of in the media. You see it a lot on YouTube. Yeah, there's a lot of it on Instagram, on social media as well, EFT. Whereas the form of tapping I use is called TFT, which stands for thought field therapy. There are some similarities between the two, but are also some big differences as well. So TFT was the precursor to EFT. So EFT developed from TFT, and it was discovered by a guy called Roger Callahan, who was a psychotherapist, psychologist in the 70s, 80s. Around that time, he discovered that by tapping on meridian points with the fingertips, so we can tap on various points with the fingertips, and it helps to relieve or release the emotional charge from a memory, for example. So
This is fascinating for
yeah,
me. It's really fascinating.
yeah. So effectively, when you tap on these points while you think of, so in thought field therapy, the idea is that when you think of a memory, you are tuning what we call a thought field. So the idea is that a lot of memories are not in the brain; they're actually in the field around the body. So there's a field around the body. You might call it the aura, some people call it the aura or the electromagnetic field around the body. And within that, or the theory is that within that there are different fields for different memories that we just carry within this field. So, let's say if you think of a traumatic memory, something that really was really awful in your life, and you think about that memory, you feel the feeling in your body, and at that point you've tuned into the thought field. So by tapping on the points while you think about the memory, it's as if it takes the disturbance out of the energy field. So when you do the tapping, it clears the energy field of any disturbance. So when you think of that memory in future, it's just neutral. It's like I think it's Joe Dispenza that says a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. So that's the point we're getting to with the tapping, and it's just amazing for so many different types of issues. So anxiety, fears, phobias, negative, traumatic memories. I've even used it for limiting beliefs as well. So let's say like a belief someone has about that, about themselves, about that they're stopping them from being confident, or a belief they have about money that's preventing them from becoming more financially abundant. You can also use tapping for that as well. So it's really really powerful, and it's something that's like it's like a sort of a foundational element of all the work that I do with my clients.
Okay, so you said phobias, fears, like it's mainly what we are using it for, and to recreate belief. If we have something that is printed in our mind and that we want to change, so we are able to do that with hypnosis and tapping.
Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing because it works so well alongside hypnosis because if I'm working with someone and during the session they say or if I get them to imagine doing something, they're like, I don't feel like I can do that because I have this fear. So then we'll often regress to the memory of when that fear first came about. In some cases, we don't need to do that. We can just work in the present moment, and I'll just do the tapping there and then. So it's great because you can also use it yourself. So say if I was working with you, I can give you some tapping sequences that you can use whenever you like, and it's very simple. So that's the difference. One of the big differences with EFT is that EFT you do the same round of tapping every time. So you always go through all the points every time, and you say affirmations. Whereas TFT is very precise in terms of the particular emotions. So, say for example, if I was asking you if it was a traumatic memory, generally I would get people to use the eyebrow, under eye, underarm, and then the collarbone. to start with anyway. But there's different points you can add in because often there are many different emotions involved in one particular issue. It's not just fear, or it's not just embarrassment or shame. There could be anger and frustration there as well. That's often there. So we
Okay.
just need to address all the emotions that are involved by tapping the different points.
This is like I said, this is fascinating, and I know because I know people that use this technique and swear by it, and it's really interesting. The process, the whole thing is very interesting. So, how can you use self hypnosis to transform your well being?
Yeah, okay, self hypnosis is a really interesting subject for me because I use it myself, and
Okay.
as I say, self hypnosis is, or hypnosis in general is about creating a focused state and then using your imagination. I forgot to mention that before, actually. Using your imagination,
Okay.
that is essentially the major part of hypnosis is how we use the imagination, harnessing the imagination and imagining a future scenario, for example, imagining yourself doing it through your own eyes, so as if you're looking through your eyes, but um, imagining doing something differently and feeling really positive while you're doing it. Now, the issue with that is that if you have a traumatic memory that's blocking you, it's very difficult for you to do that. So that's where the tapping is useful, because we can release first of all the trauma or the effects of the trauma, so that no longer affects you, and then it's much more easy to visualize your desired future or scenario. So, in terms of self hypnosis, I have a few different techniques for that to create that state. Some people can do it very naturally and very easily, but other people just need a bit more practice with it. But I do have some techniques that make it easy for you. Um, so essentially, some people can use it in the morning. I think the morning is a great time to do it. It's a great time to use self hypnosis when you first wake up. So before you do anything else, the first thing in the morning when you wake up, those first few minutes of the day, your mind is much quieter, and it's much easier to access the subconscious mind to kind of implant new suggestions into the subconscious. So that's the other part of hypnosis. It's about suggestion. So you kind of make a suggestion to the subconscious, and hopefully it will accept that suggestion. Obviously, if there's kind of like a protective program there, which there can be. So if you've had a trauma, for example, sometimes there can be a protective program there that's helping you to survive. So that may stop that new suggestion going in and being accepted. So that's it's all part of the work that I do is clearing any resistance, and often
Absolutely.
often the resistance is there to keep you safe. It's there for survival. So self hypnosis is something, if you're doing it yourself. The difference between self hypnosis and working with a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist or a practitioner who is well versed in hypnosis is that um, generally with a practitioner the results will be quicker and sometimes
Okay.
will happen immediately. Whereas if you're using it yourself, it's probably going to take a little bit longer. So it's going to take some consistency to keep using it over and over again. Doing it first thing in the morning for maybe 3-4 weeks before you really start to notice a change. Some people it will happen quicker, and some people it may take a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, I do have on my Instagram page. I do have a technique which is pretty good for sort of inducing a self hypnotic state, if you like.
Okay, I will put the link to your Instagram for people
Amazing.
to be able and go and see. So it's funny that you are saying this because like I think that homeopathy could work great alongside of what you do, because when you are talking about fears and like emotions that are trapped, we have a lot of remedy that are able to help for that. So might something that you want to add to your practice, like some remedy for people to take before they jump on a session, because it's like just I think that it will work great alongside of what you do, because they will like be able to release emotion faster and easier.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And I know we've discussed flying fears before and like flying phobias.
Yes. So for
Uh,
me was the flying fear. Yes,
yeah,
one
yeah,
hundred
flying
percent.
flying fear. I think the interesting thing, using that as an example, I think if what you can do with that is you could use hypnosis to release the fear that's underlying or release the trauma, the driving factor. But you could also use homeopathy for to enhance it, to calm you further, to give you that sense of that sense of well-being and calm. So there's I think they combine really really well. And also sometimes in my case, if a client is coming in and they're really really stressed and anxious and they're really their anxiety is off the scale when they come into the session, in my case it would probably work really well if they'd already worked with somebody like you and had
Hmm.
some homeopathic remedies to take before they came in, because it would kind
Hmm.
of just take the edge off, I might say. Yeah, you kind of
Yes.
take the edge off the fear or the anxiety before they come in, and it would make my life a lot easier, my job a lot easier then.
Absolutely. Um, if you don't mind, I would like to talk a little bit about when we discussed about my fear of flying
Yeah.
and what you said about it, because it was so interesting for me. So I always had that fear of flying, not really flying, but just when there is turbulences. So that's really my problem. But before, it was never like, it was in the back of my mind, but I was never bothered by it unless there were turbulences and I was scared at the moment, but that's it. But since I became a mom, now it's kind of like all the fears that I had before are times a million. So last year with my son, we flew, I think we flew to, yes, we flew to New York, and the flight was terrible. We had like so many turbulences, and honestly, I freaked out, like really freaked out. And since then, I'm so scared of going on a plane, especially with my son right now. So can you talk a little bit about like the connection and everything that you told me about it?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So yeah, I see this a lot with my clients that are mothers, that when they become mothers, it kind of changes the game. The whole game of life changes almost. So it's like you become, obviously you're not just looking after yourself, you're also looking after another life as well. So I guess the stakes are raised a little bit at that point. Um, and yeah, it's interesting how it intensifies everything, because I think there's also, it's not just the sense of, say, when that turbulence happened and you had that really bad flight, a part of you, obviously it's not a conscious thing, because if it was a conscious thing, you'd be able to say to yourself, "Ah, no, it's okay. It was only a bit of turbulence. The plane just shook a little. It shook a little bit, and it was uncomfortable, but we were okay. We were never in danger." But obviously, this is a subconscious thing, and there's a part of you, there's a survival instinct that is kind of a survival reflex, if you like, that has kind of sent a message through to your body that actually I'm not only looking after myself. I've got to keep somebody else safe as well now.
Okay.
I've got a life, a young life who's completely relying on me to keep it safe. So, yeah. So it's your, and I think I meant, obviously we discussed it a little bit more, and obviously maybe there are some things from your past as well that have kind of played into that as well. That are it's kind of in some cases what happens is that it reminds us of something that happened in the past. It reminds us of subconsciously it reminds the body of something that happened in the past, and then
Yes.
it kind of it then also, I guess, because of if anything happened in someone's childhood as well, and then they become a mother, it can also kind of re-trigger that as well, and also just reminds you that that this could be a dangerous situation, and I need to keep my little one safe. But yeah, it's the great thing about it is it's very easy to resolve it, I believe, because we just need to communicate to the subconscious that actually this is not a dangerous situation. Part of you interpret it as being a dangerous situation, but we just need to we kind of need to communicate that actually it's not, and it's worth the risk, because obviously you want all the experiences to be able to travel. You want to be able to fly, to other states, to fly abroad. So it's worth the very small risk. And obviously, there's a risk to everything. There's a risk to me standing here right now. Even a very small one, but there is a slight risk. We're never completely risk free, no matter what. So yeah, it's a. it's a very interesting question and a very interesting topic because obviously it's something you've experienced yourself.
Yes, because I think it's like a lot of moms are like this, and I think that it can be so beneficial for them to learn how to be able to get better. Because that's true that when you become a mom, you are much more stressed and you have much more anxiety because now you have to take care of someone else. So I think that this will be so beneficial for them to be able to learn how to manage that and understand that it's not them, it's their subconscious that it's making them feel like this.
Yeah, and it's a survival instinct, so it's kind of a genius in a way because it's like it's trying to keep you alive. A part of you is interpreting that as being a dangerous situation, so it then kicks in. It kicks in and says, "I've either got to fight this threat or get away, or in some cases you might have to freeze in some way." But yeah, generally, I think the issue with flying, specifically to do with flying, is that you are kind of trapped in a tube, trapped, at
Yeah.
30,000 feet in the air. So it's kind of it's a very artificial situation. You can't escape it. You can't fight it. So yeah, there's
Yes,
a
exactly. You are powerless.
yeah.
Like there
You
is
feel that
nothing
you are.
that we can do to fight it.
Yeah, there isn't anything you can do to fight it, but you can address it internally, inside, within. That's the only thing you can do really. But it
Yes.
is very possible to do that, and just to kind of remind your body that actually I can be calm and composed in this situation. It is possible, and there isn't any danger if I do that because it doesn't make I guess you being fearful on that plane, it doesn't make any difference to your safety at all. Whatever happens is going to happen. Um, so
Yeah, absolutely. And so, can anyone work with you? Do you work also with children, adults, teenagers?
yeah, I work with all ages actually. I probably worked from, I mean, rare, but I have worked with children as young as 5, all the way up to, yeah. There's no upper age limit. But yeah, I work with adults, children, all kinds of different sort of occupations. So some people are, you know, I mean, some people are kind of they're very successful people. Some people are just, they're just, I guess, everyday people. Other people are people that, yeah, children that are just nervous or scared about something. So there's, yeah, a very, very wide range of different clients. Some clients I work with are sports people as well. So people in high performance situations, CEOs of companies, a lot of entrepreneurs. But yeah, generally anyone can benefit from this. I think the most important thing that I've found is that the most important thing with this sort of work is there's a resonance between me and whoever I'm working with. That there's a connection there. There's a rapport, and obviously I'm not, for that reason, I'm not going to be for everyone. Like just like, I guess nobody's for everyone. But yeah, where there's a rapport and a connection, anything is possible. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are as well. So I work with people on the other side of the world. Work with a lot of people. I work with some people in person here in the UK, but a lot of my work now is online. So and it works
Yes.
just as effectively. That's the amazing thing about some of these techniques as well, is they work just as well on the camera as they do if you were in the room with
Mhm.
me. So the tapping as well is great for that reason because I just show you what to do on the camera. You do it yourself. I mean, you can even, if going further with this, it's I mean, some people will think this is a bit weird, but I know you've got a very open-minded audience. But you can actually do the tapping without even stimulating the points at all. So I can just imagine, say, if I got you to imagine your fear of flying, or the part of it, the turbulence that really makes you fearful. I could just get you to think about it, and I could just imagine tapping on your meridian
Mhm.
points, and it would still relieve the issue.
Yes, that makes sense. I do believe in that. I
Hmm.
do believe in that 100%. So you have two techniques, different technique, like the rapid breakthrough method and the genius flow coaching. So can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, sure. So the rapid breakthrough method is, um, I always consider that the first thing that we need to do, whether someone's coming to me for just because they want to release something, a fear or whatever, or anxiety or a trauma, the first thing we need to do is release whatever is causing the issue, whatever whether that's a memory, a traumatic memory, and often it is. Often I find that there is a trauma or multiple traumas that are the driving the body and the nervous system to be in survival mode. So we first of all need to do that, and this goes for the high performing people that I work with as well. So even like top sports people, at times I'll be when I speak to them, I'll realize that there are some traumas or past experiences that are holding them back. So we just need to kind of first of all release what is holding them back, and I personally like to release those things as quickly as possible. So that's why over the last sort of decade or so, I've been finding the sort of the quickest techniques that work immediately, really, and that's why I love the tapping because it does work almost instantly. In some cases, people can have a massive transformation in a minute or less with it.
Wow.
Once you get to the core memory or the trauma that has been driving that issue, once you clear the effects of it and you kind of neutralize it, it immediately changes the way people feel, and sometimes it's really dramatic. Not always. Sometimes it takes a little bit more work for some people, but some people it can be almost instant. So yeah, the rapid breakthrough method is kind of a combination of different techniques that I use just uh, for release. So I always think that whatever is what I say is it's whatever is preventing you from being the highest version of yourself. So it's as well as the tapping, I also use a technique with a light. So it uses a light in your eye movements, and it's similar to EMDR but slightly different. And it's that again is amazing for releasing the effects of traumatic memories, but also any kind of fear or anxiety that you can feel in the body. So that's another technique that I use alongside the tapping, and then obviously hypnosis is used as well, which I do love hypnosis for how quickly it works as well. Particularly if the person is really bought into it, if they're really really ready to change and ready to release whatever is holding them back, it can work so quickly. So that's the rapid breakthrough method, and then Genius Flow coaching is more of a long term thing. So some people they'll just come to see me just for a release, and that will be it. Sometimes they'll just come for one session even, and then that'll be it. Some people get a big transformation after a single session. But with the Genius Flow coaching, it's more aimed at entrepreneurs, high performers, leaders, people that are looking to kind of optimize. They're looking to optimize the way they operate, the way they work.
Okay.
Um, so allowing them to really step into the highest version of themselves, of their leadership or their performance, and it combines a lot of different things. So we have the release part. So I'll do the release with everyone, if it's necessary. Um, and then there's the idea is that we're looking to um, connect people to their enthusiasm as well. So I use the word enthusiasm a lot because I think it's so important. Enthusiasm is obviously, if you look into the word again, it comes from entheos, which is Greek, is the God within. God within. So
Wow. Okay.
when we're enthusiastic, we're like connected to something greater. And some people will say God, some people will say the universe. So that's a really important part. If somebody isn't enjoying what they're doing, I don't think they can't be at their best with it. So it's important to get people into that sense of enjoyment, that love of what they're doing, reconnect them with that if they've lost it. And then the other thing is to optimize. And to do this, not only do I use hypnosis and use a lot of hypnosis and different coaching techniques, but also I use some esoteric systems of profiling. So there's human design, which I use with clients a lot, and human design is so fascinating in terms of you can kind of really see, or you can get a real sense of who they are at an energetic level. So they're like their blueprint for being here, reason for being here at this time, um, and gene keys as well, which is connected. They're closely connected. But when you combine that with hypnosis, it's amazing because you can really not only can you release the conditioning that's preventing them from being that highest version of themselves, you can also connect them with those gifts. So you give them the sense or you kind of make them really clear on what their true gifts and talents are. because a lot of people don't know. I mean, it's surprising because you think people would know more easily, but we're not really taught this at school. We're kind of we're told that you have to do the same things as everybody else. You have to learn the same things. You'll have to do you have to do these subjects. You have to
Mm-hmm.
pass these subjects to be an acceptable member of society. But actually, we're never really shown who we are as individuals. We're never really shown what our true gifts and talents are individually because we're all completely unique. So that's what Genius Flows is. It's about embracing your uniqueness, and it's about connecting to the highest version of yourself, like what it is that you do well. And sometimes I'll point things out to people. I'll point things out to you that maybe you weren't aware that you were that gifted at that. But I will be able to spot that and go, actually, you do this really well, but you don't realize it. You do that really well. Yeah, you naturally you don't. So we don't only have conscious gifts. So the conscious gifts are the things that you're aware of. So like you're very good at homeopathy. You're very good at you have very good knowledge of it. You have very good. You're very well versed in it. You've done a lot of research. That's all. That's all. You know you're good at that. But there's other things as well that I'd be able to point out from your human design that I go, actually, you do that really well. That's a natural thing. You do it just from being in a room with people, but you don't. Sometimes you won't realize that you're doing it. So,
Yes.
so it's really powerful that way. And then we use hypnosis to kind of to connect people to that highest version of themselves. And sometimes people will recognize these things. Sometimes they won't originally, initially. But then as we go through, they'll start to notice. They'll go, oh yeah, I do that well actually. Or they'll remember some things that have happened and like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that well. Or when somebody commented and said, you do this. It's like when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. I remember someone said to me, they said, oh, you're very calming. They said you're very calming, and that made me think, oh, actually, maybe I should do something like therapeutic. So that kind of did inspire me down the line. But yeah, it's
Right.
yeah. So.
It's fascinating, and I love how passionate you are about it. Like you can tell that you could talk about this for hours, and I love that. It's amazing. Um, can you tell us like one of your success story?
Yeah, so I have a few. I'll tell you a recent story. So
Okay.
a client that came to me, he's a CEO of a company. So the company he built up from nothing to around 100 employees. So they've got 100 employees now. And he obviously, did an amazing job to build the company up to that point. But the problem is now the company's got so big, he has to do these conferences. He has to stand in front of the audience and speak and do public speaking in front of the audience. And he was very, 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 very scared about doing this. And every time he was doing it, very, very nervous, terrified, panicking. When he was up in front of the audience, and he was feeling so bad about this, and so feeling so terrified about doing it that he was thinking of resigning as CEO. So even though this company that he's built, this amazing company, and he felt that because he was such a bad public speaker and he was so scared doing it that he'd have to step down as CEO. But we did one session using some of the methods that we've talked about, and his public speaking has improved so much. Like he feels so much better being up there. He feels a lot more comfortable, and now feels that he's able to he's able to continue in his role as CEO. So this is just a single session with just using the techniques that we mentioned. A bit of hypnosis, tapping, releasing sort of traumatic memories that kind of public speaking was reminding him of, or reminding his body. Because that's the thing about it. It's not just the mind. When you think of that turbulence, you feel it in your body straight away. You feel that feeling of fear in your body. So it's the body that keeps the score. It's the body that's remembering. So we need to release it from the body. So that's what happened with him, and he gets up there now. He's absolutely fine, really well in front of audiences. And I've had a couple of similar stories with people that were singers. So people wanting to sing in front of an audience, very good voices. Could sing in front of their families, but when it was like a people that they didn't know, completely different story. So I've had a couple of those recently where they were able to one session with me, they were able to get up there and sing in front of an audience. I think I had one. She did like she was doing like a concert in front of like, I think it was only like 100, well, it was 100 people or something like that. But she was able to get in front of the 100 people and sing straight away. But before, she would never have dreamed of doing that. So yeah, I also had a flying fear as well, and this was like one of the first things I ever did. So this is when I first started. It's like 10 years ago, and this guy came in. His wife sent him because she was sick of not being able to fly abroad, go on holiday vacation, and yeah, so he came in and he sat like that. So he had his arms folded, like really skeptical. Came in, in the room. He's like, "Oh, I'll try this, but I don't really think it's going to work." So I got him to think of this traumatic memory he had of flying. We did one tapping sequence on it while he thought of the memory, and he just looked at me like, "This isn't going to work." And he said, I said to him, "How does it feel now?" He said, "Oh, exactly the same." So then I was like, "Oh God, what am I going to do now?" So I said, "Right, let's do another different tapping sequence." So we did another tapping sequence, and I said, "Think of the fear now." And he was looking around the room. You could see his eyes looking around the room because he just couldn't feel it. And he said, "It's weird. I just can't feel it anymore." And he was like, he was just stunned. And this was a guy who was really skeptical. So this guy was really skeptical. He was like, he didn't believe in any of this stuff, and he was absolutely fine from that point. So just that one tapping sequence just cleared this fear, and after that he was fine. He was flying around the world, and he sent me pictures by the window like this, his thumb up. Yeah, so he absolutely loved it from that point on. So yeah, that's just a few stories.
Nice. Hearing this, I'm wondering if because I have a lot of clients that I work with that have chronic health issues, and most of them, because they've been battling that for so many years, most of them they have this unconscious belief that they will never get better. It's very common in my work, especially with people that are chronically ill. They think that because it's been such a long time and they try so many things that they will never get better, and it's kind of something that is, I'm going to say, even at my level, like an obstacle to cure. So, would your technique be something that could help those people face? Because they're going to feel some symptoms, they're going to get scared, they're going to feel that they will never get better, and it's kind of like, like just a circle that never ends. So, can your technique help for that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have the same issue with some of my clients sometimes. They've tried everything. And I think the other issue you have is that being ill or being sick becomes part of their identity. It becomes like that they might be on say like forums online for that particular health condition. I see that sometimes with clients. So it's the one thing that you need to. It's certainly something I can help people with, but they have to be open to. They have to be open to the possibility that actually maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe I could be. Maybe I can be helped. Maybe there is help out there for me. And also, I think the difficulty is that if people are very attached to the identity that they built up around that illness, it can be difficult because they've got to face up to the fact that they won't be able to do that anymore. They won't be able to be a member of that forum anymore, or they might have made friends through through being part of that particular forum. They might have it might change their life in a negative way in some way if they don't have that illness anymore. They might not have certain attention from certain areas of their life as well. So there's all these kind of things to consider. But yes, it's definitely possible for people like that to work successfully with me. And yeah, I have had people like that before. That the other thing is, I think the stories and the case studies can help, because there's some people that I've worked with, for example, that thought that there was no hope, or they thought that they tried everything they tried. So if you think about the sort of the traditional methods of, say for anxiety, fears, phobias, the traditional methods are, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, counseling, psychotherapy, and in some cases they've tried all those things and they haven't worked. But then they come to me and it makes much more of a difference. So I think it's sometimes I think the other thing to say to people is as well that yeah, you might not have found anything that's worked for you just yet, but that doesn't mean that you won't. It's possible. It's possible, and also it may be. It's sometimes like with the guy I mentioned. With the flying, we tried one tapping sequence, it didn't work, but then we tried another one and it did work. So it's a bit like I guess it's a bit like with your clients sometimes as well. Like sometimes you might try one particular remedy and it might not work so well. You try another one and it works perfectly for that particular person. Yeah.
100%, 100%. It's like that. But it's what you said about like that becoming part of their identity, they're like who they are, and they are kind of like, even if they don't think about it, they are kind of like attached to this personality because that's the only one that they know, and it feels somehow secure compared to something that they don't know. So this is why I was asking if
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good
yes,
point.
you might be able to help with that, because that's something that I see in my practice, and like a lot of people have issues with that.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a really good point that it's hard for people to shift their identity unless they really desire or they really want to shift it because it's safe to carry on as you are. It's safer for people to continue as they are than that. There's a lot of unanswered questions for people. They're like, okay, if I no longer have that, what happens then? What's my life going to be like then? And I guess being unsure and not knowing what's going to happen, that feels unsafe to people. So
Yes,
that's why I would have to address that with them. I'm like, okay, we're going to create your life. We're going to create your future life, and we're going to make it so it's going to be great, and you're going to really enjoy your life in the future. Once you're free, and the other thing is, I think connected to that, you have a lot of people are in survival mode, like we mentioned at the start. Really, some people are in. So a lot of people are in survival mode. They're just trying to get through life, just trying to survive. So if you suddenly release or you suddenly let go of that need for survival, it's like they're like, well, what now? Because I've always been trying to survive, and
yes,
now you've just you've changed that completely. So I don't know what to do now.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The unknown is scary.
Hmm.
The unknown is scary. Even if they live like in a place where they are sick all the time and not well, the unknown for some reason is scarier than what they know.
Yeah, absolutely. People would rather carry on. A lot of people would rather carry on in a less than ideal situation than change their life and be unsure of what's going to happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's so true. So how can people work with you?
I mean, I have several different ways that people can work with me. So, at times we just do one breakthrough session. So, for example, say for a phobia, that would be generally we only need one session for that, particularly if it's something like a flying fear, because that's something that I've done so many times. One session will make all the difference to people for that. So that there is the option of kind of a single breakthrough session. So we use the rapid breakthrough method during that session, all the different techniques, and just get right to the core of the issue, right to the core belief or trauma or whatever it is that is driving that. Release that using the techniques I've mentioned. Create a powerful future using hypnosis.
Okay.
So that's one way, and then there's also the Genius Flow coaching is more. That's more of a long-term thing. So I have several different packages for that, and people can just contact me either through social media, through Instagram, or by email, or through my website as well. So there's an inquiry form on the website as well. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward, I think.
Amazing. I'm going to put all of those information under the video. And it was so good to have you with us today. It was such an interesting episode. Thank you so much, Liam.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been
Yeah,
very nice.
absolutely. Bye bye.
Bye.